My name's Don.
And I'm Peter.
And we are two plebs talking about the news.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, indeed. I was wondering if you were going to make that fit in there, but...
I know it's not, recent or current, but we're talking about a whole lot of death here.
We are talking about a whole lot of death.
As far as I'm concerned, yes, the bar's been reached.
Well,
I don't get to say good morning.
58 times, it would seem.
Right.
So, way back when, in October of last year, we covered the Las Vegas October 1 Harvest Festival shooting, and then nothing happened for months.
Right.
And we said from the jump that we would, whenever they got around to releasing something, we'd get around to talking about it. And they finally did.
They released their final report.
The big one, it's 187 pages. The same joke I cracked yesterday. It is not lost on me that the homicide code is 187, and
right.
There are 187 pages here. So,
they could have saved a few pages.
They could have saved like 100 pages. It is amazing how little is actually in 187 pages. There is, basically it's everything we already know, right? Though, to be fair, it is confirmation of what we already knew, right? So,
I mean, I would say there's only a couple of things I got out of there that I didn't know prior.
Yeah.
But they are also inconsequential.
Pretty much. There's very little in there that makes any difference to anything.
Right.
That wasn't already public information. And so apparently, whoever was leaking to 4chan was doing a damn good job because they had everything of value 9 months ago.
Right.
And here we are 10 months later, right?
Right.
And it's everything we are, like, there's a description of the interviews that they did that we didn't have.
Right. So if you want the interview for each person involved...
Oh, no. Not the interview. Not the interview. A description of the interview.
Right.
A summary.
Of the interviews. Because they don't give you the actual full interview.
Yeah.
Just a summary thereof, yes.
Despite,
right.
Once again, this being 187 pages. And that seems like a good place to have put that.
So
there is one.
Right. So just think this way. If they hadn't summarized it.
Right. This would have been 250 pages at minimum.
Right.
And then we'd have had to read all of it over the weekend. That would be great.
Right. We wouldn't be talking about it now. We'd still be reading.
Right. We'd be talking about this Wednesday or, I don't know, cancel the DPRC episode and something.
Right.
But there are some things worth noting, I guess. The confirmed total of firearms between the two rooms was 24.
Yep.
They don't actually tally up mags, and they also seem to have conflicting statements versus pictures about what has a mag. Because, for example, there is this is a AR-15X with no magazine.
But the picture has with a mag, yes.
It has a 200-round mag on it.
100 round. Those are all 100 round mags.
So they say.
Is that mag type supposed to be 200 rounds?
Most of them, yeah.
Oh, I thought they were only 100 rounds. Because I thought if you were getting over the 100 round, you have to get you're going with the big drums.
No. Well, so there's no necessity of that, just out of manufacturing, right? But unless I'm mistaken, I think those are supposed to be 200.
Because they had them all listed as 100 round mags.
Right.
That's all they had in there was either 100 round mags or 25 round mags.
Yeah, for all your 308s, right? Which is the other thing, is that they went through an actual summary of what the firearms are.
Right.
And for anyone who spends a lot of time with guns, what you pick up in reading about this is that he didn't. Right. Because there's just this crazy mishmash of fucking everything in there.
Well, I mean, most of them were AR-15 style. I think they were 7 or 8 AR-10s.
Well, same. It is the AR
platform, but the 10s are a higher caliber.
Right. And so, but it's not just that, right? There's barrel length variation. There's
scopes,
all kinds of stuff.
Scopes versus no scope.
Right.
Bipod versus no bipod. Forward grip.
differentiating kinds of scopes. I mean, he's got a red dot in there. He's got something that looks vaguely like a long range sight. Looks
right. Well, the long range sights, I think, were all on the 10s.
All but one.
Right.
Because they're at least that would make sense, right? So
Right.
I'm going to take measured shots with all of the 308, and then I'm going to spray and pray with the 5.56. At least that would be a method to the madness, which, based on everything else that's discussed about him, seems like something he would do.
Right.
Now the problem is all but one, right? What the hell?
Well, yeah, the one bolt action.
Well, so not just the one bolt action, but there's the red dot. I think is on 5.56.
Yeah,
but you're gonna have to give me a little bit of flexibility here. I'll link the report and you can check yourself. But it's 24 firearms, and I didn't memorize everything that was on every single one of them.
right.
So,
But basically, there is a bunch of AR-15s, a few AR-10s,
right,
one bolt action 308, and the Smith & Wesson pistol.
right, but it's not even that, right? So when I say anyone who spends a lot of time around guns knows that this guy didn't, because there are, and this only matters to really avid shooters, right? But there are differences between different manufacturers in how a firearm holds, feels, reacts, all kinds of things. Most of them are not very big, and your light scale shooters are not going to know or care, right?
Right.
And as long as you have the majority of the firearm together in the same way, it's going to be close enough. However, if I recall correctly, this is a 350-yard shot or something like that. That, again, if you wanted to have a skilled shooter up there, well, okay, maybe they grabbed 24 separate firearms, but they're all the same firearm. And
Right.
they are all set up in exactly the same way. And that's how it is.
Right.
Because this is why military standardization is such a big deal, right? Like, if you are on a battlefield and someone shoots your rifle and you drop it and pick up the guys next to you, that thing's going to work exactly the same as the one you were just holding, except the sights aren't going to be zeroed to you.
Right.
But you could functionally get back in the fight that way.
Right.
And the reason that they don't just I'll take some from you, and I know before anybody gets in the comments, but Don, when I was there, they had Fabrique Nationale and I think there's 3 manufacturers they buy from, which are all very heavily tied to exactly what the spec is, which is why they get to do that. On the other hand, if you just go buy random AR-15s off the shelf, that's not what you get. And it's pretty clearly not what he got.
Right.
So, once again, the skill is what mattered here, right? As dark of a thing as it is to say, this would have been worse if it was someone who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Just period. And look, we finally get a rundown on what was on the note to whether or not he knew what he was doing, and he had a bullet drop in there, calculation is
Right.
what that note was, right?
Right.
It's not a suicide note. Doesn't tell us anything, so we still
We don't know.
don't have any motive.
Yeah, that's the big thing that everybody wanted out of this report that did not come about.
Right.
A motive.
The
Found nothing.
The behavioral analysis unit says that they'll put it out sometime later this year. So, approximately a year after this happens, we'll get a report from them, give or take, because there's just not much left of the year.
Right.
So, that'll be nice. And chances are good we'll come back and cover what that says whenever it comes out. But in the meantime, though, this is, reading through here, the things that they talk about are worthless, right?
Right.
These are indicators that he was going to do something. He bought lots of stuff online. Hundreds and hundreds of firearms-related items, but then they give a detailed list of what it was, and the only way that you can come to that number is if you count each individual round of ammunition as a different firearms-related item.
Probably.
And look, he told his wife that he bought ammo in bulk because it was cheaper, and every single person who's ever bought ammo went,
Yeah.
but it is.
That's why you buy ammo in bulk.
Right. It's not different for ammo than it is for toilet paper. You buy in bulk and it's cheaper. That's how it works.
Right.
But somehow or another, this was an indicator. Does that mean that because I buy toilet paper in bulk that I constantly have the shits? Because I don't, but I do buy toilet paper in bulk. This is not an indicator of anything other than someone who shoots.
Right. And as far as they could tell, he spent at least a year practicing regularly, according to the girlfriend.
Well, so there's not a lot of detail on what regularly means, right? Because I think most people I know would say that I shoot regularly. I think I don't shoot enough.
Right. No, I mean, I would say most people who the term regularly is kind of relative.
It's very flexible.
I can regularly shoot once every 6 months.
Right.
And I would still be regularly shooting.
Exactly.
So
so
really, how often was that?
there's lots of flexibility in everything that they decide is an indicator here. But he bought multiple tickets to multiple different festivals. Or multiple hotel rooms above multiple different festivals. Well,
Right.
okay. Is that what we're going to now use? Like, well, you're going to spend a weekend in Vegas, and so there's going to be a concert that you go to on Friday that's on the east side and a concert you go to on the west side, and what you know is that you get shitty drunk at concerts and don't want to walk home very far, so you swap hotels in the middle of the weekend. Now we're going to open an investigation into you?
Right.
Or is it like,
Especially-
you need all of these things?
Especially from a guy who is known to, even when he's making a stay for himself at just one location, to have several rooms to change out to.
Right.
He doesn't just stay in one room. He was known to have 2 or 3 rooms to switch out to.
And on this goes, right? Like,
This guy didn't act
even if you
normal.
compile all of the... Well, he doesn't act normal, but the flip side of that is, if you're sitting on $2.1 million of liquid assets, which he was
Right.
in, 2015? Then if you go to Vegas and you go, I don't want loud people next to me, what you do is you rent the rooms next to you.
Right.
Why? Because you have the money. And
Right.
you don't want to deal with loud people. So
Right.
you buy an entire suite worth of air buffer between you and them. And he's not the only person who's ever done it.
I'm pretty sure.
In fact, it was in the 90s that we started hearing about superstars renting out whole floors of hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't new.
No.
And yet, this is abnormal, it's an indicator. Except for rich people.
Right. Rich people do what we refer to as abnormal all the time.
Right.
For them, it's normal.
They get to. Why? Because they have lots of money. And herein is the problem, is we are going to want conclusions drawn from this, right?
Right.
And there's simply nothing here that is definitive in the slightest. Not even kind of, right? Oh, he bought lots of guns. Well, look, as soon as I move out of this state, I'm going to start buying lots of guns. I'm not shooting up anything other than whatever range I enjoy shooting at.
But another thing that they pointed out, that it was very common for him to pick up a hobby,
Right.
buy all appropriate paraphernalia for said hobby, do it for a while, get really immersed, then get bored and just sell it off.
Yeah.
So to anybody who has known the guy, said, this is his next hobby.
Right. So, I mean, what is it that we're going to extract from this, right? And the answer to that is, who is politically motivated by what? Because that's going to be what it is, right?
Right.
Well, had we had flags for anyone buying all these guns? Like, well, okay, if you get into competition shooting, you buy a lot of guns, and you do it real fast.
Right.
You just do. Well, why would you need AR-15s for competition shooting? Because they're modular and very, very easy to move through various gun competitions with. That's why. Well, that's not a good reason. Okay, so now we're just arguing about what's a good reason. Okay, well, what would be a good reason? Nothing. Okay, then can't you have just said that? You're against people buying lots of AR-15s and it doesn't matter what the reasoning is? No, we're not going to have that, right?
Right. Well, that would make him seem like he's inflexible.
Right. And so this will continuously be the reality of this situation, is we will project our bias onto this and go, these are the things that I think are the problem in this world. Not the least of which is that he was taking diazepam and some other antidepressant or anti-anxiety med, right?
No, I think the thing I remember they said they found in the hotel room was the diazepam and inhalers.
Yeah, but he was taking, in general, per his doctor, some anti-anxiety med, which I don't think is even mentioned.
No, it's not mentioned. And what the doctor says that he was willing to receive them from the doctor,
Right.
because he had been refusing antidepressants.
Right.
and was known to refuse to actually take them if he had them.
Exactly.
So we don't even know if he actually was taking those anti-anxiety pills.
Well, look, okay, you're getting prescribed them. That's going to be enough for the part of the world that goes, see, anti-anxiety meds are what cause mass shootings. Which is the whole point that I'm getting to here, right?
Right. I mean, this shit is supposed to keep you calm.
Yeah. And, well, so...
Get you riled up enough to do a fucking mass killing?
Correlation is not causation, but there is an interesting correlation here. Antidepressants and anti-anxiety seem present in a way huge number of these mass shootings. Right? Or at least the high-profile ones.
Right.
So... But it's going to be enough, right? Because, well, his doc said he was taking anti-anxiety, which, in and of itself, by the way...
And then he should have been on antidepressants.
There's a coroner's report, portion of the coroner's report that talks about diazepam being an anti-anxiety, right? But everybody else knows this as motion sickness medicine. But that'll be enough, right?
Right.
Because, well, see, these are the things that are causing mass shootings. Like, well, are they? And at least in this case. Now, if you want to make the big aggregate argument, go right ahead. And that's fine. But I don't think you can project that onto what we have in this report and then say, see, I'm right.
No.
Any more than, well, but assault weapons ban. But that's what's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that it hasn't already. I'm torn as to whether this means people are just memory holing this because it doesn't say exactly what they wanted to say. Or
they're memory holing because the parts of the thing was that came out to me is that up until he pulled the trigger on the crowd, he had done nothing illegal.
Right. Never committed a crime. Every firearm was purchased legally.
Every firearm purchased legally. Every item purchased legally. All the ammunition was legal. The only legal problem he ever had was like a fucking speeding ticket.
Well, right. Though that right there is going to get this was a false flag to increase gun laws kind of thing. And then what will be drawn out of the other part is that he didn't like Obama and he was happy when Trump was elected because Trump was going to do something about illegal immigration.
Right.
Because that's in there.
But that point in time, because remember, that statement was made about, only a couple of weeks before the shooting happened.
Yeah.
He'd already planned the fucking shooting.
Right. This had been on the table for a year.
That was him making small talk. He didn't give a fuck Trump won. He was already planning on dying.
That won't matter, right? And you know it. It'll be, panic like Trump, therefore this is Trump's fault. And you know that's going to be true.
Well, yes, I know someone will bring it up. I'm like, and they won't think like the fact the guy had been planning and preparing for a full year.
Right.
What he said 2 weeks prior to that means jack and shit.
Well, and so that would seem clearly obvious if you don't have a political agenda to project onto this, right?
Right.
But that's not how this works. I mean, they're never let a tragedy go by without capitalizing on it, or whatever the hell that saying is, right?
Right.
So there is going to be, anytime this gets brought up in the future, whichever cherry-picked portion of this report really suits the narrative, right? And look, don't get me wrong, it has been fairly quiet, all things considered, for a news cycle for this report to have come out. It's also not brand new and interesting anymore, so that might be why.
Right.
On the flip side, this will get mentioned in some later debate in the future for any of those reasons, right?
Right. It will.
So,
I mean, the only things that I saw that he may have done as a precursor, telltale sign was, all of his money started disappearing. Sent the girlfriend out of the country and gave her like the $150,000. Settled all debts. Paid off. He made final arrangements.
Right. So settle all debts is the only one that I think really applies here, right? Because he, though I think settle all debts is also why you see his liquid
dropping so fast.
His liquidity just because if you settle all your debts, that money's got to come from somewhere.
Right. And
chances are good liquid capital's the where.
Right.
Well, okay. And then other than that, I think the wife's argument here is probably much better than anything anyone would like to impose on this. Like, he's a millionaire. She thought he was trying to ship her to the Philippines to buy a house and then divorce her.
Yep. Get rid of
That's what we would think in any other circumstance, but add in the shooting and it's, well, see, we could have known this was coming. Like,
Nah.
But could we?
No. She thought it was like he was just getting rid of me.
And for a reason, right? I mean,
Right.
that is an avenue available to a millionaire. Like, you're in another country, we're done.
Right.
But we can now look back at this and go, well, but we could have known because of it. No, we couldn't, right? And what you would say in any other circumstance is, well, he's a millionaire and he's trying to dump your ass.
Right.
And make himself feel better about it, right?
Right.
But that is the area where we want to project in the future. Well, if someone sends someone to another country and gives them 6 figures worth of money, we know they're going to shoot up Las Vegas. No. I mean, again, specifically with millionaires, right? Because,
right. I mean,
hey,
heck, we caught Trump giving out 6 figures worth of money just to keep somebody shut up.
right. So, is this an indication that we're about to have a mass shooting? No. Is it going to be played like that because reasons? Yeah, probably, right? And look, this report is sort of, I don't know how else to phrase this, boring in light of everything that's already been leaked to the media, right?
Right. Nothing new.
So,
Really.
I mean, other than the few little details that we've covered here, though, relevantly speaking, just because we're short on time, he definitely shot himself. The coroner's report's in there, and it's pretty clear that if you have any idea how a firearm works, that gun was in his mouth when the trigger was pulled. Unless he was left-handed, all of the things you would expect to happen happened. I have no idea if he was right or left-handed, but statistically speaking, he would have been right-handed. And the bullet didn't exit the top of his head. I mean, that's the new piece, right?
Right. And when it comes to the family interviews, the only person who gave a drastically different version of who Paddock was Eric Paddock.
And mostly...
Paddock.
Sure. Whatever he says. Mostly because it seems like he was the one that knew him the best, right?
Probably.
And everybody else gave that he was a real standoffish guy. And that was that.
He was quiet, passive-aggressive if he was upset with you.
Right.
But yeah, though Eric's like, no, narcissist, didn't care about nobody if they didn't, if they weren't worth anything to him.
Right.
If they didn't benefit him, he didn't care.
Oh, on that subject.
And of course, he would have done this. He had already accomplished everything in life he wanted to accomplish, and he was bored with life. It was time to go, and he wanted to leave his mark.
Which, I mean, at this point, again, project whatever you want onto this situation, but that theory is as good as any other that even has been floated, right?
Right.
Simply because none of them have any backing of any variety.
Nope. At least this one's coming from somebody who knows the guy.
Oh, other than that it wasn't ISIS. It probably wasn't political because he wasn't very political. It wasn't religious because he was an atheist and just looked down on people who were religious. It doesn't seem to be anti-religious, though, to be fair, they very briefly touch on that. And they don't seem to have any evidence of what it was, so what it wasn't is, I mean, But
it was a whole lot of nothing new. I mean, the only real question I had is, what the fuck was the snorkel for?
Yeah. Well, after 10 months, you'd think they could have had more than that, or at least answered that question.
What the fuck was the snorkel for? The snorkel, long-ass fucking hose to another room, what the fuck for?
And that's the end of our show for the day.
That's right, it's taco time.
However, before we go, we'd appreciate it if you shared us around.
You can find us on YouTube,
BitChute,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Patreon,
and Maker Support.
Thanks for stopping by.